I did a video a few weeks ago, and it was regarding how to get winter fruit and veg from your garden. And I want to start off now, just basically saying that that video I thought was good, but it could have been better. So I'm going to add all the little bits I didn't have time to do before, and didn't have any video footage on any of the plants, hardly as well. So I'll improve it now. So the first thing we want to talk about is kales, which are really good for winter foods. And the best ones to get, in my opinion, I got the Dorberton's kale. The other brassicas you can get are 9-star broccoli, and the other one as well is sea kale that I've got a lot of here. And the last one, which I grow a lot of, is cottager's kale as well, which can be grown as a perennial. So it's a lot better to grow the perennials, so you basically got food throughout the whole year, but also in winter. So that's the kales. To get fruit in winter is difficult, but there's a couple of things you can get strawberries from right until December outside, and possibly all year round as well if you've got a greenhouse or even heated greenhouse. The best winter strawberry I found, especially for the north of England anyway, is the Loren, L-O-R-E-N strawberry, which seems to be very hardy and produce fruit even in the garden right until December, which is really good. When I've had it in a greenhouse, it was fruiting until about mid-January. Then it was really cold, and then it just stopped until June that year, or sorry, May that year. But it's a really good strawberry. That's Loren. Right, another way to get fruit and veg from your garden in winter is rhubarb, and you can force a rhubarb up as well. So this is an early variety, typically early, and that'll give you a nice source of vitamin D, I believe it is as well, in the rhubarb. The other thing you can do, you can use forcing pots to protect them early on in the year. You can get like a good harvest late January, I've heard of, or even like February. So you can try that. Right, most of your herbs in your garden will be edible during the winter months, but won't taste as nice. Some, like the chives, will die back, and the coriander, etc., might die off. But your marjorans, your oreganos, and such like will survive through winter, but they won't taste as good. And there's your sage as well, that'll survive. The reason why they won't taste as good is because they need the sun and heat to produce the essential oils that give them the nice flavour, especially with the flavours from the sage. But they are edible, and they'll taste the same but not as strong as they do in summer. Things you can do for winter as well is with your herbs. I've mentioned before, you can eat them straight from the garden. If you wanted to keep some of the taste a bit more pungent with them, you can either freeze the herbs, or you can place herbs in olive oil and let them infuse the olive oil, and then use the olive oil to give you that extra flavour or burst in, say, pasta dishes. You can get harvested potatoes in winter as well. You can either leave them in the ground, or you can earth them up in straw and get loads of potatoes when you require. I mean, you could even dig them up for like your Christmas dinners and such like. So yeah, I would class them as potentially a decent winter crop. Though not a winter crop, different berries, your strawberries, blackberries freeze really well, and with like things like damson fruits, you can make jams out of those, and you can make apple purees as well. So you can plan ahead and just make sure you got all your fruit and veg in the what you want to keep in the freezer. And I've got various videos about how to store various fruit and veg as well over winter, if you want to check those out. You can get food or fruit throughout the whole year is with apples. Now, apples either store really well, or you can leave them on the tree. Some varieties will quite happily be left on the tree until late January, February time. before the actual new shoots come up and all that lot of new blossom comes off. So you could actually harvest your apples from trees. You know, if you're lucky, you've got the like varieties in your garden from July right through to January, February time the following year, so which is a long time. You need different varieties, early ones, later blossoming ones, and you also need decent enough weather. Obviously if you get like a cold snap of -8, 10, 12 degrees, then they're going to either rot or fall off or something. They'll get damaged when the freezer, then they'll just get all mushy. But on a good year, if it just drops maybe like -2 or 3 degrees, you could have apples for a long time. But it depends on the variety, so check your varieties and look on the internet, see what ones can last on the tree and stay on the trees for longer times. If you can, grow some lettuce and rocket if you've got space for it in the garden, and you can pretty much have lettuce and rocket all year round, especially if you grow them under cloches and give them a little bit of protection as well. But seems to do alright. I've germinated and actually eaten rocket under a basic plastic cloche in the garden in February. So you know, it's well worth doing. And if you incorporated a hotbed as well and a few other bits and bats, you could be laughing with that. You could have salad all year round easily. Runner beans can be frozen, but broad beans you can dry them out for your winter harvest. But what else you can do with broad beans is to plant them out as normal, but maybe a little bit early, maybe in September time rather than October. You know, when you want to overwinter them and then get an early harvest next year. What you can do is plant them out maybe end of September, beginning of October instead, and harvest the actual green leaves or the green shoots from them, and use that as your winter greens as well as your like perennial collards or kales, so you can get some extra flavours into your meals with that. I believe it's December, right through to when the first frost comes, you can get a harvest off it. And that tomato plant is the lychee tomato. I've only grown it once, and I grew it in a greenhouse, a friend's greenhouse. It was a heated greenhouse, and that gave me, or gave us, a crop of tomatoes right through to mid-January, and they still stayed on the actual tomato plant after that point. We made some chutneys and stuff like that, and that probably stopped ripening though, but that probably would have been early March, and it just died off. I might have died off due to lack of feeding or just exhaustion. I'm not 100% certain on that. But that's the lychee, and I believe it's the or litchi. I believe it's spelled L-I-T-C-H-I, tomato, and it's a little bit different to these tomatoes. It's got like a green, what's that, a bit like a Cape gooseberry, like a covering over it. Chillies will keep really well. You can dry them out for winter. You can even keep them on the plant. And I've had a chilli plant outdoors. I mean, it dies off, but you know, outdoors, and it was like -8, I believe, at one time. No protection on it whatsoever. You know, the leaves all died back, this and that. But the chillies, you could still pick them. I was picking them right through to March the following year. So although it's not winter hardy, you can still get a fair bit of you know, freshness. It will keep quite well actually on the plants. And if you had a heated greenhouse or something like that, you might even be able to keep your chilli plant alive as well. With tomatoes, these obviously, you know, as soon as it gets below 7 degrees, you're looking at them either dying back, getting leaf problems or mold problems, etc. So you want to, like, soon as you see the tomatoes stop ripening, you just want to take everything off, and as soon as it gets to like late September, that's about, you know, late September, maybe the first week of October if you're lucky, you know, just hack down the tomato plant. They ain't going to get any more riper after that. But there is one tomato plant that you can get a decent crop right through to. These are some of my winter pots as well. So you got kales here, growing nicely. Some chard, which is quite hardy. You get a crop right through the year with that. Got rocket, which can do quite well over winter. doesn't grow too well, but you can put cloches over there, so look into cloches. Got some videos on cloches. Some of these herbs will die back, especially the mints and the lemon balms, but others will be edible. And these are just strawberries for next year, so nothing wintry up there. One other thing about growing food in winter is that if you have raised beds or containers, you'll generally get slightly longer growing times than you would do if you're just in the ground, because the drainage is better. You'll get less ice forming, less damage to the roots, and it'll stay slightly warmer on the raised bed than it would do otherwise. Also, a variation on the raised bed is the hotbed, which the Romans invented, I believe. And what it is that underneath you have a top layer of soil or compost. Underneath that you have rotting manure or your compost heap underneath, providing the heat and nutrients to your plants. But it'll keep it'll keep the frost at bay. And if you had a covering over that as well, like a mini polytunnel or something over that, you can retain some of the heat, and you could be growing strawberries a month earlier than everyone else at least. And I've had a tomato plant planted outside. Possibly I might have done a video on that, but a tomato plant planted outside in March, and it ended up with really a cold March with -5, and it lived in the hotbed. So that's testament on how good they can be, and it's a very old idea, and it's thanks to the Romans. Just one last note. I think I'll call it quit for the winter harvest of well, basically just talking through to you about winter fruit and veg in the garden. And a really good thing you can try is sorrel, which if you hack it down in mid-September, you can get nice fresh leaves that'll taste alright right through the winter. But if you leave it, like say if I left this here, and when it comes up to September in a month's time, I don't hack it down. When I want to harvest some sorrel in winter, it'll taste too tough, too bitter, and it'll be just too pungent to really eat unless cooked. Sorrel is one of those things that you should be cooking anyway if you're having a lot of it, because it's got oxalic acid into it. I'll let you read up about that, because obviously there's different levels in different sorrels. The highest one I think is the red vein sorrel, and then probably the French, and then the lamb's ears, and the also wild sorrel is quite high as well in oxalic acid, slightly more than the French as well. But it's a good way of getting salad greens anyway during winter months. Right, I think this is everything covered anyway that I want to cover. Any questions, post them below, and I'll see what I can get answered for you. Right, take care and bye.